As we enter the difficult times mentioned in the Holy Bible, more and more people are curious about what the Bible predicts for the future. We are currently witnessing a lot of troubling events like wars, rumors of wars, nations fighting each other, and various natural disasters. This has caught the attention of both believers and non-believers who are increasingly interested in learning about the end times. Recently, a news presenter who doesn't believe in the Bible acknowledged the accuracy of a passage from Matthew 24. This passage talks about how Jesus is concerned about deception that will affect people throughout history, including the end times. Even those who don't believe in the Bible can't deny its accuracy. Nowadays, there are movies that include ideas from the Bible about the end of the world, and Hollywood is taking advantage of people's interest in these predictions. There are films about Armageddon and big budget movies showing the apocalypse. It seems like many people have a feeling that we might be living in the last days. In biblical prophecy, a significant character is the first beast, commonly known as the Antichrist. This individual, unlike anyone seen before, has led to a lot of speculation. Many people have tried to figure out who the Antichrist is throughout history, but it remains a mystery. The beast and its mysterious number have given rise to various theories about the true identity of the Antichrist. Over time, influential people have been accused of being the Antichrist or connected to the Antichrist's system. However, these claims were later proven wrong. Looking back, many of these accusations seem exaggerated, reminding us to be careful about saying someone might be the Antichrist today. Consider Emperor Nero, the well-known Roman ruler from 54 to 68 CE, infamous for persecuting Christians. If we transliterate the Greek spelling of Nero Caesar, which is Neron Kaiser, into Hebrew, the numerical equivalent is 666. To put it simply, when you add up the letters of his name in Hebrew, it totals 666. Some people have labeled Adolf Hitler as the Antichrist for obvious reasons. Additionally, there's a book titled The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea that proposes an interesting idea. According to the book, the British monarchy, particularly Prince Charles of Wales, is suggested to fulfill the Bible's prophecies about the Antichrist. Authored by Tim Cohen, the book explores biblical prophecy, historical information, and the symbols in the British royal family's heraldry to support its arguments. Cohen contends that Prince Charles possesses the lineage, influence, and religious and political significance needed to play the role of the Antichrist, as described in the Book of Revelation and other biblical texts. In American history, there has been a persistent and sometimes controversial belief that every president since George Washington could be the Antichrist. This idea comes from the substantial influence and power that the President of the United States holds, both within the country and on the global stage. This perception makes them susceptible to suspicion for some people who interpret current events using the framework of biblical prophecy. Since the days of George Washington, the nation's very first president, there has been a tendency to scrutinize the actions and policies of presidential leaders, measuring them against the descriptions and predictions found in biblical texts regarding the end times. This scrutiny has not been limited to any one era or leader. Instead, it has spanned the entire history of the United States, with almost every president finding themselves at one point or another on the Antichrist suspect list. Several notable presidents, including Franklin D. Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama have been suggested by various individuals and groups as potential Antichrist figures. People have raised these suspicions based on a range of factors such as their policies, charisma, global influence, or more obscure criteria like their names, associated numerology, or actions that could be interpreted as fulfilling biblical prophecies. For example, Ronald Reagan's name with 6 letters in each of his 3 names, Ronald Wilson Reagan, led some to connect him to the number 666, associated with the beast in Revelation chapter 13. People often employ creative methods to connect an individual to the number 666. Likewise, Barack Obama's worldwide popularity and policies, perceived by some as moving toward a more unified global government, stirred speculation about his possible involvement in end-times prophecy. This tendency to speculate follows a broader human inclination to identify patterns and signs in the world, particularly when trying to comprehend and predict crucial and catastrophic events. The substantial power associated with the role of the President of the United States naturally draws such speculation, particularly from those deeply engaged in end-times beliefs. Another group frequently considered as potential antichrists is billionaires. In the modern era, billionaires have become highly prominent figures, wielding significant influence not only in business and finance, but also in politics, culture, and global policy. Their considerable influence, coupled with vast wealth and charismatic personalities, has given rise to a trend. Whenever a charismatic billionaire emerges on the global scene, some quickly label them as potentially being the Antichrist. This speculation is based on the idea that someone with immense wealth and influence might have the resources to fulfill the prophecies outlined in biblical eschatology related to the end times. The idea revolves around specific characteristics linked to the Antichrist in biblical texts. These include immense power, the skill to sway public opinion and manipulate global events, and the promise of bringing about a period of peace and prosperity, only to lead humanity into deception and ruin. Billionaires, with their extensive resources, global networks, and sometimes philanthropic activities, neatly fit into this narrative for those who interpret contemporary events through the prophetic lens. Their capacity to impact economies, influence political decisions, and shape media narratives gives them a kind of omnipresence that can appear almost supernatural to religious observers. Furthermore, the philanthropic and technological pursuits of some billionaires aimed at addressing global challenges like poverty, climate change, or achieving technological singularity can be seen by some as efforts to create a utopia on Earth, a goal that aligns with certain interpretations of the Antichrist's false promises of peace and prosperity. Figures like Elon Musk, focusing on groundbreaking transportation innovations on Earth and in space, Bill Gates, known for his global health efforts through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Mark Zuckerberg frequently become the center of such speculation. Despite their initiatives being widely praised for addressing urgent global issues, some scrutinize them, viewing these figures as potentially fulfilling the Antichrist's role by leading humanity astray under the guise of progress and innovation. Throughout history, many influential figures have gained prominence, captivating the public's attention and sometimes raising suspicion. In their rise to power, some of these individuals were identified by onlookers as the Antichrist or accused of being associated with his system. These confident claims, however, were later proven false or lost credibility as the narratives surrounding these figures evolved. Looking back, many of these assertions appear overly dramatic, serving as a clear reminder of the challenges in interpreting current events through the filter of biblical prophecy. The inclination to associate public figures, whether they are political leaders, billionaires, or influential personalities, with the Antichrist arises from a fundamental human need to comprehend the world, particularly in times of uncertainty or upheaval. The Antichrist, as portrayed in biblical text, is linked with deceit, immense power, and the ability to steer humanity away from divine truth. It's natural then for individuals who hold significant sway or represent change to be seen through this perspective by those searching for signs of the end times. However, the habit of labeling contemporary figures as the Antichrist has resulted in numerous speculative and groundless assertions. This underscores the risk of applying biblical prophecies to modern individuals without a clear understanding of the relevant criteria. Upon reflection, many of these claims seem to reflect the fears and anxieties prevalent during those times, rather than accurately representing the individuals involved. As we contemplate the future and the potential emergence of the figure known as the Antichrist on the global stage, it's vital to approach this subject with discernment and caution. According to biblical prophecy, the Antichrist will display specific characteristics and engage in particular actions that set him apart from other influential figures. The first key characteristic of the Antichrist, according to biblical prophecy, is his claim to be God and his desire to be worshipped. This might come as a surprise, as his ultimate goal is to present himself as God and Christ, seeking adoration from people. When he appears, people will indeed worship him. He will use compelling methods, performing extraordinary feats, offering solutions beyond others, and bringing about peace where others have failed. The warning in Matthew chapter 24, verse 24 states that false Christs and false prophets will arise, displaying great signs and wonders that could potentially deceive even the elect. Similarly, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 3 to 4 cautions against deception, emphasizing that a time of falling away must come first, revealing the man of sin who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, ultimately claiming to be God. The second significant action attributed to the Antichrist is his intention to speak against God. His aim is to malign God in order to deceive many into worshiping him instead. Motivated by pride, the Antichrist will lack reverence for God and instead speak negatively about him. Revelation chapter 13 verse 6 affirms this, stating, "And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven." The Antichrist will show complete disrespect for God, insulting him by claiming divine status. In Leviticus, God established a solemn decree against blasphemy, emphasizing the sanctity of his name with the utmost seriousness. Leviticus chapter 24, verse 16 declares, "Whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. The entire assembly shall stone him." This commandment underscores the severe consequences of disrespecting the divine, highlighting blasphemy as an act deserving the ultimate penalty under the law. This decree not only serves as a testimony to the holiness and reverence owed to God, but also establishes the gravity with which blasphemy is to be regarded. In a future act of divine justice, the Lord will abruptly stop the Antichrist's acts of blasphemy. Despite the Antichrist's attempts to elevate himself above God, declaring his divinity and seeking worship from humanity, his fate is sealed. Revelation chapter 19 verse 24 describes this decisive moment, stating, And the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet, who in his presence had done the signs, by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. This passage signifies the ultimate end of the Antichrist and his accomplice, the false prophet, as a direct intervention by God to halt their blasphemy and deception. Their condemnation to eternal punishment in the lake of fire reflects the fulfillment of divine justice, echoing the Old Testament's strict stance against blasphemy, but on an eternal and cosmic scale. The narrative shift from the Old Testament law in Leviticus to the prophetic fulfillment in Revelation encapsulates a continuous thread of divine justice and the unchanging nature of God's stance on blasphemy. Although, for a time, the Antichrist may appear to hold power and mislead many with his blasphemous claims, his ultimate fate is predetermined by God's sovereign will. The stark difference between the temporary rise of the Antichrist and his eventual downfall highlights a fundamental truth. No act of defiance against God will go without consequence, and ultimately, all blasphemy is self-defeating. The second key characteristic is the number 666, often denoted as 666. Carries significant symbolism representing evil and malevolence in the realm of Christian eschatology. Its mention evokes imagery of sinister forces at work, serving as a powerful reminder of the widespread influence of the Antichrist in the world. The connection between 666 and the Antichrist is firmly grounded in the book of Revelation, where it is explicitly identified as the number of the beast, a direct allusion to the presence of the Antichrist and his malevolent actions. Revelation chapter 13 verse 18 declares, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666." This verse emphasizes the crucial significance of discerning the number 666 as a definitive indicator of the Antichrist's influence. It serves as a latent symbol, forewarning of evil and acting as a guiding light for perceptive believers to identify the activities of the Antichrist in the world. When you encounter someone advocating for the global adoption of a mark on the forehead or right hand, recognize that this person is either the Antichrist or an agent within his system. Similarly, if someone is endeavoring to control the terms of buying and selling, manipulating these fundamental aspects of daily life, that person is either the Antichrist himself or a pivotal figure in his operation. While the precise meaning of the number 666 remains uncertain presently, there is no doubt that its significance will become unmistakable when the man of sin, the Antichrist, makes his appearance. The significance of 666 goes beyond being a mere numeral. It serves as a symbol alerting individuals to the presence of evil forces whenever it is seen or emphasized. Intricately tied to the Antichrist, this number acts as a clear and unmistakable sign of his attempt to deceive and lead astray. Furthermore, when the number 666 is actively promoted, propagated, or emphasized, especially by an individual benefiting from its promotion, discerning observers should be vigilant to the possibility that they are witnessing the Antichrist in action. The person championing the number 666, gaining from its dissemination and associating their identity or cause with it, is likely embodying the Antichrist. Despite actions appearing as progress or enlightenment, they are, in reality, manipulations aimed at advancing a dark agenda. Finally, the Antichrist is linked to the concept of the third temple. As history unfolds along a linear timeline From its beginning to its destined end, God has intricately woven events into this timeline. The Bible attests to this, assuring us that we are progressing through a timeline marked by scheduled prophetic events. Within this timeline, particularly emphasized in Christian eschatology, the recurring theme of a temple emerges. Repeatedly in Christian eschatology, a temple takes center stage. In Daniel chapter 9 verse 27, it is stated, "He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him." In Matthew chapter 24 verses 15 to 16, it is mentioned, "So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." Additionally, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4, it is highlighted, "He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God." The Antichrist's connection with the third temple becomes apparent. When this temple is either constructed or nearing completion, it becomes a significant indicator of the Antichrist's presence. The verses from Daniel, Matthew, and 2 Thessalonians weave together to form a compelling tapestry of prophetic imagery, firmly rooted in the temple's significance within the context of end times eschatology. The temple, serving both as a physical and symbolic space, holds a central role in spiritual worship. Its presence or absence has influenced and will continue to influence pivotal events in the biblical timeline. Daniel chapter 9 verse 27 reads, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate." This verse implies that the temple must be standing and operational for these events to transpire. It indicates that in the middle of a 7-year period, the regular religious offerings will cease, a significant occurrence given that the temple is the primary site for sacrifices and offerings. Furthermore, the ominous abomination that leads to desolation is erected within the temple, an event echoed in Matthew chapter 24 verses 15 to 16, which states, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." The abomination, regardless of its specific manifestation, is perceived as a direct challenge to God and his sacred place of worship. Matthew's narrative heightens the urgency and seriousness of this event. By referencing the prophet Daniel, there's an establishment of a seamless thread of prophecy that connects the Old and New Testaments. The call for those in Judea to seek refuge in the mountains upon witnessing the abomination underscores the enormity of the imminent danger. While scholars may debate the exact nature of the abomination of desolation, the primary focus is on the temple where this abomination will occur. The emergence of a temple carries significant implications for end times prophecy, and once this temple arises, one should also anticipate the arrival of the Antichrist. The idea of building a temple in today's political climate appears almost unimaginable, primarily because of the proposed location for the third temple. This crucial site, central to end times prophecy, is believed to be on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The complexities of international diplomacy, regional conflicts, religious disparities, and deeply rooted historical contexts create significant challenges for undertaking such an endeavor. One might wonder, in our globally interconnected world with a keen awareness of global politics, how the construction of a temple could occur without triggering conflicts. However, according to the scriptures, during the tribulation period, not only will the building of the temple become a viable possibility, but it will also be protected and even supported by the Antichrist, as indicated in Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 to 27, with a verse stating, 77s are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring an everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. Know and understand this, from the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the Anointed One, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the Anointed One will be put to death and will have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering, and at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation, until the end that is decreed is poured out on him.